busy winter time, so I hope to give updates on that. And we got a lot of documents to cover, so I think we'll get right into it. The first thing I'd like to do is if we could go around and just, I know there's some new faces, I got names in front of me, but if you could go around and let's introduce yourself and what your role is, and we to get introductions done, and then we'll move right into our agenda. Hillary, if you want to start, you're at the top left of my screen, so.
Sure. I'm Hillary Olson. I'm the State Soil Health Specialist for Iowa NRCS, and my husband and I farm in central Iowa.
Great. Whoever wants to be next, Jack or James, you're in my screen, so go for it.
Jack Boyer, farm near Rhinebeck, just southwest of Waterloo.
Jason?
Jason Opine, we farm northeast Iowa, right around Decorah. I've got a turkey operation and a small feed mill for County Ag.
Michael?
Oh, Michael, you're on mute.
There you go.
Gotcha. Hi, Michael James. I'm watershed coordinator for Polk County, Iowa. I work for the Polk Soil and Water Conservation District.
Welcome. Josh?
Josh Nelson. I farm corn, soybeans, small grains, Wright County, Iowa, about an hour south of Albert Lee. Also run a hog operation.
Thank you, Josh. Alicia?
Alicia Sedmeyer, Northeast Iowa Soil Health Specialist out of West Union.
Welcome. I got Jeffrey up there.
Yep, Jeffrey Reister. I'm Northwest Iowa Soil Health Specialist.
Thank you. Jeremy?
I'm JD Hollingsworth, Southeast Iowa Soil Health Specialist, farm corn, soybeans, and we grow our own seed rye.
Thank you. Sophia?
Sophia Campbell. I'm a watershed coordinator in the Decorah USDA field office. I work for the Soil and Water Conservation District in Winneshiek County. Great.
Got more people coming. Merlin, go ahead. I see you first.
Yeah, Merlin Yaksik. I'm a retired business guy, heading up Regen, Iowa. Came back to Colorado, or came back to Iowa after spending about 45 years in Colorado, and got involved with the Healthy Estate Initiative and all the things that farmers are doing in Iowa, and jumped on board to give Tim some support so that we can, get the infrastructure in place that I think we're all looking for.
Okay, Doug Adams.
Yeah, Doug Adams, technician down in Fort Dodge NRCS office, and I also farm in Humboldt and Webster County, no-till and strip-till and cover crops.
Thank you, Doug. I got Terry Gleaves next.
Yeah, I'm Terry Gleaves. I'm the district conservationist in East Pottawatomie County. I also farm 1,500 acres and have a 80 cow-calf herd. Do a lot of cover crops.
Thank you. Megan?
I'm Megan Giordani, and I'm a watershed coordinator for the Trout Run Watershed in Winneshiek County.
Great. What do I got? Ruth? Ruth? Yes.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Ruth Bloomquist. I'm the soil health specialist in Southwest Iowa out of Atlantic.
Okay. I got several people popping in and out. I'm probably missing them. I see Will Cannon. Will, take your mic off and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Will Cannon from Jasper County, Iowa.
Great to have you aboard, Will. Who else? There's, as I'm looking through.
I think Schaefer.
I got to slide over here. Go ahead.
I'm Schaefer Ridgeway District Conservationist for NRCS in Waterloo.
Appreciate it. Who else do I need to get a hold of here? I'm not seeing them all. Maybe there's just too many and I don't know how to expand my screen, but if you haven't introduced yourself, please do so. Anyone?
Yeah, this is Chris Teachout from Fremont County.
Chris, thank you. Have I missed anybody that's on either the phone or on Teams? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Well, we're going to. Oh, did I miss somebody?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Tim, I think that was me. I unmuted myself on accident.
You're good. You're good. You get the Fayette County exemption. All right. Well, let's just go right into the agenda. And Merlin, I hope you can help me on this. You can help me, but we've met several times with not only with meeting with some potential funding partners, but we've also met, I think 3 or 4 times at the Agribusiness Association of Iowa building with Ben Gleason, trying to get plans and put together of a group of this scope and having a statewide footprint. We've been trying to do things right, trying to get the structure correct. So maybe just a little recap. And Merlin, you can fill in the gaps where I don't, but Merlin and I met a couple of times while I was in Des Moines. We met with IDALS, Iowa Corn, Iowa Farm Bureau, and Ben at AAI, and just probably the best word to say is let them know what we're doing, to see for a couple reasons, to see if we're not, as long as we're not duplicating something that's already being done, and to kind of shop around and see what kind of interest there would be as far as funding. So that was the major part of it. It was more about meet and greet and introducing ourselves. And at that point when we met, and I forget, was that in December? I think in December, we really didn't have an idea of budget numbers. We more or less wanted to tell us that we have a group that we're interested in. We explained the goals that we had already identified and letting them know that we are on our way to be open for business in I don't want to say a short period of time, because it's definitely taken longer than maybe what we've anticipated. Merlin, do you have anything to add to that, to the recap?
No, not really. I mean, we're just trying to get our ducks in a row. And as you suggested, Tim, want to make sure that we're not duplicating something that's already out there, because truthfully, as you get out there, you find there are a lot of people in this space. Whether they're at a government level or at a county level or even a community level. So ideally, we want to try to find a way to work in tandem with them, supportive of them, and also in such a way that we can learn from them so that we can get our ducks in a row quicker or sooner rather than later, and put our plan together, whatever it may look like. I will add one other piece to that, or to this whole kind of concept, and that is because I'm working with the World Food Bank nationally and internationally, and we're connected to a bunch of other states with their work. I hope to bring some of the things that they're doing to add to what we're doing here in Iowa. And then most importantly, reach out to other state soil coalitions, because there's a bunch of them out there that have been out there for a while, and we want to learn as much as we can from them as fast as we can and not make any mistakes that they may have made, so that we can just accelerate our process. So that's where we're at. It's good to reconnect with you all, and Tim and Hillary, who I've had numerous conversations with. I think this is kind of the meeting we've been looking for to start putting all these pieces together.
Great, thanks, Merlin. The three main things that when we talked with potential partners or the people that we met with was to, we laid out our goals. And I know our number one goal, and we'll get into that later, but the three things that we really were pushing, and I think we got even a bigger list of goals, but the things that really we wanted to convey to potential funding partners was that, our peer-to-peer network, how we can bring farmer to farmer, meet them where they're at in their soil health journey. That was the one thing that we talked about. The other thing is, and that was the goal that came out of our meeting when we were face-to-face, is to challenge producers to adopt at least 2 soil health practices. And the other major issue that I've been talking about is I think this group could be unique in the fact that we can help educate producers on carbon. Those are the three, when we met last in December, of the three things that we really were honing in on. I know there's more of them, that we have a lot more, and I'm going to bring to the idea that we need to make sure that we have a livestock component in this, because in order to have soil health, it's not only cover crops, no-till, but that livestock manure is so important. So I think somewhere in our goals that we need to make sure that we have a livestock component and bring them in part of the group. So if there's not, Hillary, do you have anything to add with the recap of the winter meetings or what we've learned? Maybe I didn't cover a lot with what our meetings with Ben, because there's been some other things we found out with Ben later on that maybe you could share.
Yeah, so we met with Ben, it was right after Bill Northey passed away. And so he was going to, or is planning to talk to the full board of the Agribusiness Association of Iowa this week, I think on Thursday. So I reached out to him again last week to make sure he had all the information that he needed. He said that he did, and that he had already spoken to the executive board, and they are, they're in support of bringing on Farmer2Farmer as an additional client under AAI. So I think that was the main thing. Also, when we talked to Ben, that's when these bylaws and the articles of incorporation documents came up again, that we need these in place in order to proceed with our 501c3 submission. And so I think those were the main points that I can remember.
Yes, yep. And that gives us a great segue in to, so there's several documents that I printed off that was sent to everyone. Articles of incorporation and bylaws are the two things. If I know there's a lot of wording in them and a lot of specific things that have to be put in because of a 501(c)(3) status. And I'm just gonna, if there is any questions or something that you want us to address in those two documents, I'd like, speak now, because this is the time. The one thing, knowing these are the documents that will be filed when we achieve our 501(c) status, but they're also things that I believe can be changed by the board of directors. And it sets out, not so much the articles of incorporation maybe, but the bylaws specifically talk about membership, about how the board of directors, how that'll be determined, how the committee structure will be, financing, rules of order. So if there's specific concerns on those two things, this would be the time that we can talk about them.
I know Jack had a couple of comments. I'm trying to pull that email up now. Jack, you remember
I'm
off?
trying to find it as well, and so hopefully you can find it.
Okay. So there was a comment that Jack submitted about the board of director meetings. It says that it can be called at times and places deemed appropriate by the chairman or a majority of the board of directors with a recommendation of meeting at least, and it was monthly. And Jack wondered if maybe we should change that to quarterly as a first suggestion that he had.
Good catch, Jack, because all the commodity groups, they try to work around the busy times of most of agriculture, and quarterly works the best, and try to get stuff before planting, after planting, before harvest and after harvest. That seems like a pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and I thought, you know, if you, like you just said, if you put it on a quarterly, okay, maybe we're not always on the first month of the quarter, but somewhere in that quarter we can schedule a meeting.
Yep. Can make those changes happen. Other input on bylaws or articles of incorporation?
There was another question.
Go ahead.
Jack, did you find them? I'll let you cover it.
Yeah, I did find them. I guess the second one I had was more of a question. It's down in section 7, and the board of directors shall annually elect from the members of the board of directors a chair, vice chair, and a secretary treasurer. And my question was, is that going to be one person, or are you going to have 2 positions there? I don't have a lot of heartburn about one way or the other. I just want to be clear.
Sure. So it says directors, the board of directors will have a chair, a vice chair, and secretary treasurer. That is 3 people in my mind that would be
The
doing
way it's
that.
written, I think it was. I just wanted to be sure that's what we intended.
Yep.
Right now, I think we have 2 people. We have Mitchell said that he would be the secretary, and then Mike Phillips said that he would be the treasurer.
Okay, so then we have.
So for at this moment in time, we've got 2.
I see.
And I know Mitchell was going to look into developing the website and some of that content. So I feel like that's probably a lot right there.
Right.
At least
So
in the beginning, maintaining it.
yeah. So maybe we can just make that typographical change and just have secretary and treasurer, so that we would actually have 4. And maybe, and I would agree with you, Jack, maybe, or Hillary, at the beginning, the more people we have involved is probably going to be better to get this thing off the ground. More bodies in that position.
Okay. And just to give you guys a little bit of background on where we got the bylaws and the articles of incorporation, I got those from the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they got them from the South Dakota Soil Health Coalition. So these have been around. Exactly.
I have another one if we're ready to move on.
Yes, Jack, please.
Section 8, a quorum shall consist of the board members present at the time of a meeting. The way that's written, that could be 1 person. So I think what I would suggest is that it should be a majority of the board members. So however many board members that you have assigned, it needs to be a majority of those board members.
Good catch. Yep. And not serving on several boards, I'm not sure. I know everyone has difference of percentage but a majority of board members present. So that means if you had, you'd have to have 3 people in this structure to be able to have a majority or a quorum. If you have 4
The
people.
way it's written though, if you have one board member is all that shows up, he's present, he or she's present.
Yep.
And so, and whether it's 50% or it's 25%, I don't know what the number needs to be.
Yep.
But I think it's got to be more than one.
Sure. Okay. Great catch. I'm making the notes right now. Okay.
Does anybody have a recommendation on how many we'd like there? And we can just work that in.
From my experience, at least a 5-member board is usually a pretty good start. That way you can get some different input and experiences in the decision-making process. And so a majority would then require at least 3 board members voting for a particular item that we wanted to adopt.
Yeah, good point, Merlin. Plus you have 5, and that way you can easily have a majority on one side or the other. If you have 4, you could have 2 and 2 on an issue.
And I don't know if we want to specify 3 or 4 or whatever. I like the percentage better, because at one point we were talking about having several regional directors, and I don't know if the number is 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, how many, but we could go with a percentage, and if we decided to grow, then we wouldn't have to change it.
And that was some of the original talks about having using the crop reporting districts, the 9 crop reporting districts, and having representation from each one of those, correct?
Right.
And so they would actually be a member on the board, correct? Is that what?
Well, not necessarily it'd be, yes, each one of those regional directors, I think, would be a part of the board.
Sure. So that gives
just to throw out a number, I know 50% is a nice round number, but sometimes that's pretty tough to acquire in the farming community anyway. And so I'm going to throw out a number that is 30%.
30% of, you want to clarify a little bit, Jack? 30% of the board.
30% of the board would constitute a quorum.
Okay.
And I'm not dead on that number, but I'm just getting us a starting point.
Sure. And if we use the idea that we would have 9 directors from corn reporting districts, that's 9 plus the 4, so we're at 13. If so you're looking at 30% of that, which would be 4 people, correct? Is that right? If I've done my math.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. And Hillary, correct me if I'm wrong, but do we have, and I'm looking through, do we have anything that actually spells out anywhere? Is that in the committee where we talk about the 9 crop reporting districts as they would be part of the board of directors?
I don't think so. We could add that.
I mean, that's something that Shirley can add.
Yeah.
I know we talked about the crop reporting districts. We've talked about NRCS has various regions. CDI has various regions. I think we just need to pick one. And the crop reporting district is as good as the next one, as far as I'm concerned.
If that would be, if crop reporting districts would be something that works, and I'm not in, so I don't know in the NRCS world, does that work? Does that work with those kind of boundaries? Does that impede anything that we would be doing? Is there a better system? Because, you know, most farmers understand crop reporting districts. There's a lot of knowledge when it comes to, I'm in crop reporting district 3, and we know, you know your boundaries. So I just want to make sure that that would be correct to move forward in.
I guess my 2 cents would be if the 9 crop reporting districts make the most sense for this group, I would roll with that, and I wouldn't get too hung up on
Right. Yeah.
NRCS areas. Well, we work across area lines.
Okay.
I don't think that would be a big deal. Anybody else? Doug, what do you think?
Well, I was just looking under Article 6, Board of Directors, Section 2, it says the Board of Directors of F2F shall consist of 7 or 9, but not 8 directors. So I'm not sure, if we should make that 9 for the crop reporting districts, and then of those 9, are we electing the Board of Directors?
Tell me where that is again. Is it under the Section 2?
What page are
it
you
says
on?
Article 6, Board of Directors, Section 2.
Yes.
So it's kind of in the middle of that paragraph.
Oh, got it. Got it.
Okay.
So 7 or 9, but not 8 directors. Sure. So we would, to clarify that, if we're going to use crop reporting districts, then we just need to change those numbers, because the Board of Directors will have a chairman, a vice chair, a secretary, a treasurer. There's 4, and then 9 reporting districts is 13, correct? Is that what
And
we're...
to be clear, those reporting districts are separate directors, and that the officers they won't be the same person in either one of those 2 positions. If the president would not be the director from Region 3. Region 3 would have its own director.
Right. I think if we're all clear on that we could make those necessary changes to reflect the 9 crop reporting districts plus the 4, for a better word, I'm going to call it executive committee, or maybe that chairman.
They'd be the officers of the organization.
Right. Correct.
I might also add that you make it a clarifying statement in there, is that to separate the officers from the regional directors, that they are somehow not common, because I know we got caught in that in CDI. There were some of us that were officers, but also was a regional director, and we found in our bylaws that wasn't allowed, so we had to make some changes.
Sure. They got to be different people. You can there's the 9 representatives from the crop reporting districts are separate from the Board of Directors, but they are part of the board.
Correct.
And be a voting part of the board, which you give us 14.
Right.
Okay, great. Other comments on?
I think that was all of mine.
Okay. Other comments on the bylaws, or that while we're talking about bylaws, that anyone can see that we've made some that we need to clean up or change? I know I've worked with several groups, and if the bylaws don't work, you change them. But you have to have a kind of a direction and kind of a structure in place. Not knowing how this is going to work, we need to have at least a structure so that we can get behind the structure and make sure that it's done as correctly as we can at the time. And this is the time. Anything else on that? If not, I'd like to go to and really talk about the vision. It was the page that says Iowa Soil Health Coalition at the top. It really gives the meat and potatoes of what this group is going to do. It really develops our goals. And in order to start looking at real funding opportunities, this is the paper that people want to know. They want to know what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and how it's, you know, what is going to be our goals and achievements. And so if I think, Hillary, does everyone have this? They should have all sent the
Are you talking about the articles of incorporation now?
Nope.
Or something different?
I'm talking about something different. So there's articles of incorporation, there's bylaws, and then there was a third piece that says Iowa Soil Health Coalition.
Okay, is that the one that I sent to Ben on Friday?
I don't know. So maybe not everybody has, is what you're telling me.
I don't think I have.
This is one that was, if I'm thinking of the same thing, that was something I put together last summer to help you guys that were going to different groups to try to share our message. At the top, it says Iowa Farmer2Farmer.
That says Iowa Soil Health Coalition. So it was even before the Farmer2Farmer.
So it's, yeah, I just recently changed it.
Well, okay.
I can share it right now.
That'd be all right to share it. But I guess unless there's more on the articles of incorporation or the bylaws, I'd really like to dive deeper into the goals of this group, because we kind of talk about, you know, the 3 goals that I mentioned, but this even talks about them more, and maybe to have a discussion on what is going to be the job of the people, whether it's at the county. How is this group going to work? I mean, it's great to have a Farmer2Farmer network. It's great to have some goals, but I'd like to see more of a discussion on, you know, what will we be tasking the people at the county level, or if it's at the regional level, depending on how this, if we look at regions, what will that look like? And I'd like to have more discussion on that, on a regular business plan that we can all get around and say, yep, this is what we're going to do. Is it just Farmer2Farmer network? Is it making sure that we try to educate on carbon? Is it to just push those counties to get 80% of the farmers in that county to adopt 2 soil health practices? What's that going to look like? I thought, and Hillary, if that's all right, if you're comfortable with that, I'd like to just have some discussion on it since we have a little bit of time, unless we need to direct it back to bylaws or some of the other things, but have more discussion on the meat and potatoes of this organization.
Nope, I think that sounds like a good idea. I just put that document that Tim was referencing in the chat. So this was something that was drafted in July after our meeting that we held out there at the Leica farm at the end of June. And so I think that none of this is set in stone. We can still make changes, but it was just something to get started, to summarize our discussion about the goals and the mission statement.
And the real reason I'm asking for this kind of discussion, so we can really hone in on it, is we can't just sit down to our funding partners and say, well, we're Farmer2Farmer and we want to do these 3 things, and they want to know how we're going to do it, what what we're going to incorporate to achieve these goals. It's going to be more than just bylaws and our articles of incorporation. We really need a business plan. And I know I'm talking about probably an all-day meeting set in face-to-face, but I wanted to get the discussions going. I wanted to make sure that I'm comfortable and the rest of the group is comfortable about where and how that we're going to achieve these goals. Is that clear to everybody, or am I just going off the ranch here?
I think it's a little unclear to me, Tim.
Okay.
And
okay.
I get the general idea of what we're all trying to accomplish. I just don't know that I understand what direction we're going to take to get there.
And that's my question.
Yeah.
That's Jason. That's exact. I mean, we can have a structure and we can get a board of directors and we can have people in place. And we can talk about membership and everything, but
what are we trying to accomplish?
What is our accomplishment, and how do we measure success, and what's it going to look like? And this is, I mean, I'm not trying to pin anybody down. I just want to have open discussion on what to expect, because I have certain things that I've been thinking that I want to have. I want to meet farmers where they're at in their soil health journey. I want to have this inclusive. I want this to be mainstream, because in order for us to meet these goals, we have to be mainstream with the farmers, and we have to include livestock. We have to include row crop. So I want general discussion so that I'm clear, Hillary's clear, Merlin's clear when we're talking funding opportunities, that we know what we're going to do. I want to make sure that this group is comfortable with the direction. Jason, I maybe interrupted you. Go ahead if you had more to say.
No, it just seems like the RC meetings I've been to and talking with Sophia and working with the NRCS, we're still working with the carrot to get people to do things. And I like that. I'm a farmer and I like being compensated for putting the cover crop out there. But I think there's a level of education that after somebody understands the carbon cycle and the water infiltration and the things that are happening with their soil and how they're repairing things, that maybe the carrot doesn't have to be there anymore. And I think there's almost room for another seat on that board for someone that heads up education. And I think to me, that's the direction that this whole farmer to farmer thing is we're going out trying to educate the farmer, not entice him with another carrot of, I can get you a little more cash if you just do this. That's only going to work for so long, and they're not going to really focus on it. If there's something to be learned or knowledge to be gained, I think it might propel this further.
Exactly.
So if we had a general force or a person or an entity that could help gather the information or gather speakers to send out to different regions, or have a list of people that are willing to talk on different subjects that the farmers in that region might have an interest in, I think that would move things quicker.
Yeah, and I think that you just hit on the whole goal, the whole mission from my perspective. I'm an educator, first of all, in my business world. And so I understand how education works, and repetition is the key to learning. So bringing the farmers together to share the information, as you're suggesting, Jason, I think that's the essence of why we're doing this. And then as they become more educated as to the costs and benefits of doing something, then they start to take charge on their own, and like you say, don't need the carrot anymore.
Right.
They see the
I thought that was
they see
part
the
of where
different
we,
things that they can address, whether they do one at a time or. Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
I mean, I thought that's kind of where we started. It is one of the main focuses of this group is education and mentoring and those kinds of things. And so I don't know that it's a seat on the board. It's a responsibility of the board, I guess, and members in general. To educate.
Yep, I agree with that.
And I know we don't have carbon education in it specifically in either I don't believe in the bylaws or anything, but I know carbon was the thing that when we talked with the people we met with in December, when we talked carbon, that got their attention of doing, and I think, I believe yet today that carbon education about, and it has a political, it contains kind of a political negative in some ways because of the carbon pipeline, but I think we need to talk about carbon and talk about how carbon can bring value to the farm. And with, whether it's CI scores, and I know Mitchell's been doing a great job with that, to people understand the carbon intensity. I want to make sure that this group is comfortable that we are going to work in the carbon arena and to promote, whether it's education and the financial benefits that can be because of what the good things the soil health are doing. I'm just looking for input.
So this is good discussion, and maybe Hillary, if you just share that document to see what we had and see what still applies or what changes such that maybe this discussion's had would come along with it.
I can read it, Jack. I can read the goals of what
I think it'd be better if it was shared so we could look at it.
Okay, but I can.
Yeah, I'll
read.
do that. I think I'm gonna. Sorry, I think I'm going to email it. I'm guessing it has to do with the fact that you're not a government employee that you can't open it. So I'm just going to email it. So I'll do that now.
I just
Sorry, Tim, go
copied and
ahead.
pasted the goals into the chat as well from the document Hillary sent.
Oh, it's in the chat. Cool.
Thank you.
Yep, that's from the document, the Word doc from that summer meeting. So nothing set in stone, drafted in July of 23.
So I'm just going to go through the goals instead of having dead time. Just there's a lot more to it than that. But there's a lot of good explanation. But the goals at that time was to have a farmer-led soil health presence in all 99 counties across the state. Support livestock and resources for farmers by farmers. Number 3, promote soil health principles on cropland and pasture. 4, practical and profitable for farmers and grazers. Develop and promote new funding and incentive sources. Training efforts, at least one soil health leader in each county. And then X percentage of adoption of soil health principles in each county. And I think that was the goal that we said to have 80% or 80% adoption of 2 soil health principles in each county. That was and we left it blank, but at the time, I believe Mitchell Hora said to have 80%, the goal of this group would be to have 80% adoption of 2 soil health practices in each county. So meaning that 80% of the farmers that make up your county would adopt 2 soil health practices. And that could be anywhere from Haney tests to carbon intensity scores to adopting cover crops to adopting no-till and a plethora of things that can be done to adopt a soil health principle in each county. So meaning, we're not limiting to, it's whatever practices that could help soil health, and especially for beginning guys that never done it.
And so I think with our subsequent meetings that we've had since that first one in-person meeting in June, we thought we were going to maybe tweak some of the 99 counties to more of a regional area, or focus on areas that are already have some interest and some momentum. And then I feel like some of these have changed, I guess,
They
with
have.
our discussions after. So this
They
needs
have.
to be updated.
Yep. Because the last meeting, I think we went face to face when we talked about all 99 counties having a presence in all 99 counties. That is a lot different than having a regional presence. Most definitely for manpower and inputs and dollars. If you're trying to go to all 99 counties, you're talking a greater financial need than you would if you were looking at a regional type, having regions set up where the counties in that region would be part of that region. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page of what we're talking about, especially when we're looking at funding.
I thought the way the discussion was going, though, at the time anyway, is that we would like to have a soil health specialist in every county, but that's a pretty aggressive goal to set, and maybe we want to have an aggressive goal. But a step along that way is to have these regional people that would help do that, and really the role of that county person is focusing more on the education mentoring relationship. So you got somebody close that you could talk to.
What about the idea of having county organizations that represent Farmer to Farmer? I know I've attended this winter the Dubuque County Farmer to Farmer. They're already well on their way of doing several good things. So
it may not be an individual, but we have a presence somehow that represents soil health.
So just to be clear, are we looking at wanting to set up a structure in every county that has the kind of organization that the Dubuque County Farmer to Farmer has, or not? Jack, you're shaking your head.
I don't think that was the discussion at the time, and I don't think we need that much overhead. Okay. We just wanted to have a representative, I think, was the idea. Okay.
Just want to be clear on that. Any other input on that to make sure that we're clear?
This is Megan. I'm just a watershed coordinator. So what would that look like? Like, are you thinking like someone through NRCS or an agency type person, or would it be just like a group of farmers who are meeting once a month in every county?
That's my question. How will it look?
Yeah.
This is Michael. I'm up in Polk County. I think that the soil and water conservation districts can be a very integral part of this. And the reason is because, number one, we have a pretty good understanding of the folks that are in our counties. And then we have a pretty strong background in, a lot of us have a pretty strong background in soil health principles. So I think that could be a very good contact within each one of those counties to disseminate information, get the word out, that type of thing. I just have one more comment, and that is the number 4 in the goals, the practical and profitable for farmers and grazers. I know that one of the things that we brought up earlier is that the whole carrot and stick idea, and at some point we're going to have to get away from, a farmer saying, I'll do it if it's profitable. I'll do it if you give me money for it, that type of thing. I think that I don't want to have someone say, I'm not going to do it. Look, it says right in your goals there that it has to be practical and profitable, because I don't think it's profitable. I think it might be, we might maybe change the wording a little bit, or consider just taking it all together.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I want to wade in a little bit on the efforts of the counties. As a government employee, I strongly believe that that we need to work with our agencies and our organizations that are established, but I think we really want this to be farmer led, correct? So that's why we wanted a mentor maybe in each county, hopefully at some, eventually, but to help, yeah, I think a farmer led effort would be best, and then to pull in the watershed coordinators and NRC staff, et cetera.
It seems to me like this is getting more complicated than what I remembered as starting. Maybe a better way of stating is that we would like to have a member from every county. And that member, not that you have a county organization of any sort, but we have someone in every county that can be a soil health advocate, can be an educator, on some level, and be a mentor for those people in that county. Not that we have to have some big organization that holds meetings every month or any of that kind of stuff. They would be part of the support, and those regional directors would be support to those individuals out in those various counties. Is the way I thought we got started. Maybe that's not where we want to go. I thought that was kind of the discussion at the time.
That's why I'm having this discussion, because I want to be clear of how our structure is, because it makes a big difference whether we're developing county organizations that have a structure like what we're used to with corn, soybean, farm bureau, pigs, cattle. They have a structure, and some of them have a great county structure. Some of them are more regional. And I want to just be clear on how we're setting it up so that we understand it. And I'm hearing a couple different things. And I want to go back to Michael's comment about number 4. And I think if it isn't practical and it isn't profitable, I don't look at that as going after dollars for that. But I think in a lot of people who have been resistant to do soil health practices, those 2 items have not been clear in their mind that it's practical or profitable. And I think we got to make sure that if we're pushing a soil health agenda or soil health, that we have to do a good job at convincing them that there is profitability and practicality in the practices. I think that's, and maybe I missed it, because I don't look at that as trying to get cost share money. I'm looking at in my own farmer operation, when I adopt no-till cover crops, is it practical? Is it work within my management skills? And is it profitable? Meaning, am I going to have a return on investment for my farm? I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
And I think it is part of our goals, and that's part of the educational piece of it is to help them understand how it can be profitable and practical.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it is part of the education process. And then I think that marries in with what both you, Jack and Hillary, said, is that if we've got a mentor, not an organization in each county, but if we've got a mentor or a lead person that can provide some of that mentorship and education initially, then I think we can accomplish both things. And I think we're all saying the same thing there. Michael, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'll go back to my original comments. I do think farmer-led is the way to go. The one thing I'm suggesting is that the soil conservation districts can be helpful in things like field days, disseminating information, providing information, helping bring people together, make suggestions, that type of thing. I think that's where they go. And Tim, to your point, yeah, practical and profitable, you're right. If we educate people on what the science is, where we are in the process of understanding and seeing that these ideas are profitable. 100%. That's a great point. Thanks.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having internet issues up here in northern Iowa, so I wasn't sure. I had to call in, and I wasn't sure if I was muted. I was just missed part of the conversation, but I was just thinking back on discussions that we had with Mark from the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition back in December when it comes to that point on the SWCDs. In Minnesota, they kind of see them as partners to the SWCDs, where the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition, while they don't have county, like 99, there's not a presence in every county in Minnesota. They do, if the county needs, if the SWCD needs help with funding, the coalition can step in. If they need something from the local conservation district, the conservation district can kind of help, and it kind of is a bit of a symbiotic relationship there, back and forth. Thinking of a conversation I had with Sophia and talking to some of the guys in my area about this idea. A county, I was one of the, Mitchell and I were pushing pretty hard early on to get a 99 county presence. And now that I've talked to some people about it, I'm working on trying to get some sort of group like this to go on in this regional area in northern Iowa. And I backed off from the county perspective just because I realized there's just not enough of us in certain areas. And I've heard the same thing from guys in West Central and Northwest Iowa, where they want to have a farm group like this. They just don't know if there's enough farmers to have county groups yet. And so, up in North Central Iowa, we're having a regional kind of approach where we're going to have, 8 or 10 guys from the region meet up and talk about next steps. Wish we could do what Andrew did in Dubuque and just have it on a county basis, but we're not there. We're not that far advanced yet.
And I think that's where this group can help. I mean, to strengthen those, that's what I want to have that discussion, because the region, I look at, if you have a community college in that district, 1 or 2, those community colleges can be helped. So there's several resources within each crop reporting district that we maybe need to spell out and identify and put that as one of our goals, as either partnering with Soil and Water or partnering with community colleges, because those can all be a great resource and help to our group.
We'd want to partner with any resource that happened to be available in a particular region, I think. And the discussion about having a member from every county, that is a goal. That may not be where we start, but we want to work toward that, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's, because I made the crack at a event that I talked to recently where I said, in Wright County, we've got enough no-tillers that we could fill up a 10-passenger van and have room to pick up 4 more hitchhikers. So like, there's enough nucleus of a group there, but those 6 guys talk to each other all the time. We already kind of have a group together, just not formal. But we're not very active or effective at reaching out to the other farms and farmers in the area, even though they all know who we are. But I kind of see how starting at the regional level and building some sort of organization will allow us to filter down to where we can start making these county groups. So, you got to kind of build the infrastructure first for the local people to piggyback off that. And we're going to have Andrew come and sit on a phone call tomorrow, actually, to talk about this. So.
All right, I mean, this is great discussion, and I know it seems like it's probably disjointed, but this is the kind of things that we really need to, at least in my mind, to be clear of how this thing's going to be structured, because that one of the, so here, some of the questions I had, that we need to build a business plan that we can utilize when we are going after financial support. So the question I have, how are we structured? What kind of budget are we looking at? Well, the budgets, if we look, is going to be depending on if we do a county-wide structure or a regional structure. What do we need for personnel? We start looking at how many people is it going to take? I mean, yeah, we can have this great idea, but we're talking about having hired personnel to either manage those regions. When do we estimate that we're going to roll this out? I know these are all questions that I just popped in my mind. And then the other question I had is this group, are they comfortable with having like a multiple commodity group funding? So I look at iWater, I look at the Coalition Support Iowa Farmers. I'm looking at several groups that are a coalition of support from 2 or 3 or 4 or 3, I guess, commodity groups. Does that have any concern, or is it? I want to throw those things out as a possible discussion.
I guess in my mind, I think when we become clear about our goals, I think that'll help us figure out what the potential for funding opportunities from different groups. So we just make sure that we stay on course with what we decide our core goals are.
Yeah, agreed. Good to keep me in
line. And I think maybe that could also help with the structure conversation too. Once we figure out, our top 3 goals, 5 goals.
Well, we've had 3, and those were the 3 that we originally talked about. That we've talked about this whole meeting is the Farmer2Farmer network, the percentage, like 80% of farmers doing 2 soil health practices, and I think we need to develop more, and then educate on carbon. I think we need more specific goals of what we're going to task this group to do. Those are the 3, and we've talked about other ones. I'm not sure I got it clear in my head what those other goals are. We talked about education. That's going to be an important part, but input on really specific goals.
Well, I don't think we're that far from the 7 goals that are in the chat right now, and that what we've been discussing, are we? I mean, I think we're kind of generally in agreement with those, okay. And they all have an educational component.
So I'll ask the question to the group, are those 7 goals that we've talked about in way back last year, are those still their goals? The only thing we don't have in there is carbon. And I keep bringing it up, and I don't want to beat it, but it seems to be like that was the thing that attracted some real interest from people that we were looking at for dollars. How to educate farmers on carbon. Or is it, or should not, or I'll ask, is that not our goal? Should we not even try to educate farmers on carbon? To me,
isn't capture of carbon a soil health principle? I mean, it's not the 5 principles that we always talk about, or 6, depending on where you're at, but really what you're trying to do is capture carbon.
Well, when we're talking about carbon, we're not just talking about carbon capture. We're talking about using carbon as part of soil health, and adding it as food, because the carbon farming of the future, if you will, is it's about sequestering what we can from the air with good soil health practices, but there's a lot of new information and technology coming out about how important carbon is and the different types of carbon that we have. So I would see that almost being a subset of item number 3 or goal number 3, Tim.
Okay.
And we might have a number of subsets there.
Yeah, I'm just kind of similar to what Jack and Merlin just mentioned. I'm just looking at these 7 goals, and I can see how carbon is interwoven into each one of these. Especially when you start talking about promoting soil health and different incentives, training efforts, and the percent adoption of soil health principles. Each one of these is inherently related to carbon. So we may not need a specific goal related to carbon, but I think it's definitely something that we need to keep in mind that's interwoven into every single one of these goals.
Okay.
Now I'll talk out of the other side of my mouth. We may need a specific goal that says carbon just to get attraction to some of the people that'll help them want to fund us.
I think maybe just helping the farmer understand the carbon cycle is very important when we're talking with farmers and cover crops and soil health. So understanding that carbon cycle is probably maybe something that we could add.
Okay.
So I did just post 3 goals that we discussed at that December meeting after the big soil health event in the chat. And the education piece got kind of wrapped in together with a focus on carbon. And I remember Brian Doherty brought up the water cycle as something that's a little bit more tangible for people to see with their improvements in soil health in addition to carbon.
I think carbon is a good thing to keep moving forward with, and it's a hot talking point right now for everyone. I think when we speak of it, there's 2 different ways to look at it. There's the carbon intensity score, where they're going to get money, and then there's the people that understand what carbon is doing in the soil. And it's even a metric that you can see, right? As you add more carbon, as more of it stays and is sequestered, which it's very small and it takes a long time, but the soil will turn more dark, more black. So it is a metric that you can actually show somebody that there is an improvement here. There are things happening. Then comes the education of what is the carbon doing for you? Sequestering nutrients, holding that nitrogen that you're paying for, holding water at 3 times of what clay can. It is a very key component on what everybody on this page is trying to accomplish. So therefore, I do think it is a talking point that should go forward and is something that guys have a bug in their ear of it already. So it helps move that along. And I think that's what we're all trying to do is move this along a little faster. And with education, you have to be able to show it on the blackboard of what am I accomplishing? You can tell me there's microbes there, but are we going to buy everybody a microscope and show them? And even when they're looking at it, they're not going to know what they're looking at. Most scientists don't right now. But the carbon is something that guys have kind of grasped onto and do understand. So measuring that, I've seen Lauren Steinlager, he's done 4-foot soil cores. I mean, it's a great metric of what he has done on that soil. So do I want carbon to be the only thing that they're getting out of it? No, but do I think it's a quick way to move forward to get guys going or girls going on it, to show them what they're doing? Yes, I think it's very important.
So I vote that we add a goal of number 8 and we add the whole carbon thing that we're talking about because it is definitely an interest point, as you point out, Jason, and it could end up being an attractive part of what we have to offer farmers that are looking at this.
And I we can add it if you want to. I just think it's already there. It's for those that know soil health, it's an evident thing. You need carbon to feed microbes. Plants produce sugars with photosynthesis. They produce carbon that feed microbes. Some of those microbes die. Necromass, you're getting organic matter, which chelates to carbon, holds more things in the soil. It's already part of everything that we're talking about. I'm just saying that it should be something that we can show the farmer that's putting cover crops out there because he's doing it to stop erosion, which I think is a great thing. But I'm not putting cover crop on my ground to stop erosion. I'm putting cover crop on my ground to sequester carbon, to build organic matter. That's my understanding of carbon, and that's why I'm pushing cover crops. So whether you add it or not as something that is a metric people have to achieve, that might be putting goals a little too high, but that's part of what should be the education of how does carbon work. It is a central key to all of this.
Would it be good?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Josh.
Would it be good on these with these ideas? I was just looking up what Understanding Ag calls their 4 ecosystem services, and in there they talk about water cycling and nutrient cycling. And so you know, if you want to put a goal in there, that would be a simple goal, just to say, explain the water nutrient cycling and healthy soils or something along those lines. You can cover the carbon, you can cover the water, you can cover all the obvious visual changes in your soil without getting too committed to specifically carbon.
And the only reason I'm bringing up carbon is because I see it's been so politicized, whether it's talking carbon, CO2 carbon pipeline, or comparing to the carbon that we're trying to sequester in the ground. And I don't think there's a great understanding of it. That's my whole point. I think it would be great to include trying to understand the carbon cycle, or try to understand the principles of carbon cycling and how it could be profitable, because I think that's all part of it. That's my only point. It's an educational thing, because it's got, when you bring up CO2 or you talk carbon, there's negativity to that. And I think our group can do a great service to try to educate more farmers on the importance of carbon. That's my only point.
Jack, were you going to say something earlier?
Yes, but I'm not sure it adds much to the deal. Sequestering carbon and capturing carbon, it is a benefit to soil health. And so, as someone else has already said, you know, it is a subset of all of those goals that we have. You know, increasing the biology in the soil is a tremendous benefit for both production and quality of that production. And so I don't know, other than having something there that's flashy to help with the funding, I don't know that we need a specific goal around carbon, even though it is a subset of all the rest of those. And I think as we get in, we have the goals. A next step, not today, but a next step is, what is our action plan to accomplish those goals? And what are some measurables out of each one of those?
So, Jack, so with Mitchell's carbon intensity score, you know, I don't know how many people on this call maybe have done them that are farming. I've done mine, and know where I'm at. That's what I'm looking at, some type of language that it's educational, that's actual measurable, that can say, all right, I'm sitting at 14 on my carbon intensity score. What does that mean? So, so to have a goal, and maybe one of the goals could be is to encourage 50% or a percentage of the farmers to do a CI score, is to have a carbon intensity score done, which evaluates your entire operation and puts a score on where are you at in your operation. I'm looking at ways of how we can meet farmers where they're at, if you're a full tillage guy or if you're a full no-tiller cover cropper with manure, what are those differences? And those differences are measured with a carbon intensity score or some type of carbon score. So that's my point, to try to bring that goal to this group and how it could be beneficial to help farmers understand, because believe me, I'm just beginning to understand it. And I think it could be part of our educational group, but we need to spell it out if that's what we want to do.
So I hear you say that the CI score is a tool by which we measure our success. Is that what you're getting at, perhaps?
I think it is, Jack. I think
could be. Could be.
And my point would be that CI score is just one component of carbon. And here again, if you want to, what I'm hearing is two things: is that the carbon issue is already included in our goals, and then I'm hearing Tim say that it would be good to have a separate goal identifying carbon, and we can identify the different issues around carbon to be more helpful. So it's kind of either one or the other. I'm not attached to one or the other, but I guess what makes most sense for the individuals that we might be trying to attract to join our network.
Well, I'll ask the group that's what form of what is a form of measurement that compares what I'm doing in my operation to what Jason's doing in his operation, or Jack, or any of the other people on the call that are farming? How do we measure that? And is that important to list that as a goal, that we have a measurement, that we know where you're at and how do you improve?
So might that goal, just trying to blacksmith some sort of a goal here around that, we wouldn't look for a specific number. We would say we would like for X number to have performed the carbon intensity on the carbon intensity score on their farm, just as an education tool in itself. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think farmers, you need to know where you're starting from to know where you want to go. It's just like back when our watersheds, we were doing testing. Everybody wanted to do testing because they want to know if you had an impaired water. Well, you can test all you want, but you got to know a baseline, and that's my point. If we list that, somewhere in a goal that gives us, whether it's carbon intensity score, some kind of baseline, how do we know where you're at? How do we meet you where you're at? If everybody had a carbon intensity score, we could, and maybe that's not the right metric. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but.
Well, I'm just trying to get us to some place, and then we can, we have this second one here. It says get 80% of Iowa farms to adopt practices that encompass 2 soil health principles. What if we write something similar? I don't know that 80% is the number, but it says we get X% of Iowa farmers to obtain the CI score on their farm.
Yeah.
And what is a good number to put in there, or what is a potential number to throw in there?
Well, the average for Iowa is somewhere around 30 or 31, I understand. So that's if you're, full tillage. So that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to look at like a goal that we can, that a goal with carbon intensity helps meet our goal of getting a percentage of farmers to adopt soil health principles. But when you tell that farmer you need to do no-till and cover crops, okay, where do you start? Where do you start? And I hope I'm clear. I'm trying to figure out a system that we can say all areas, we have these specific goals, and we need a measurable goal. That's and I don't know what else is measurable on a farm-to-farm basis.
Several of the meetings I've been to, and this is what I've asked: how can I measure it? How can I show it? And my father is probably one that I need to prove it to the most because I'm farming his ground for him. So I've asked Brian, I've asked at NRCS meetings, I've asked at different chemical meetings that I've been to. How do you show this? How do you prove it? Well, Lauren's Soil Core is one. I think Colorado came out and did that for him. Way of showing carbon. There's water infiltration tests that can be done. Brian's been on the farm and tapped the ring in it, and that is part of cycling carbon and microbes and roots and yada yada yada. There's organic matter. I mean, there are things that way. PLFA tests. There's new biology tests coming out on the market through some of Lauren's group things that he's been with. So there's ways to show some of this, but I think that all of these fall within the goals that we have on that chat there.
Okay.
You're just trying to find proof, and that will get them past the stopping erosion, which I know is very important, but that will happen because of the practices, and the practices have to be done to do carbon and biology, and the biology will do the rest of the work. We could sap analysis tests, maybe on fields that are practicing soil health principles. They're getting better micronutrients because they're being processed and unchelated from the soil through the microbes. Those are things that soil biology should do for you when it starts working.
Okay.
One of the things I like to say is, farmers, we know what soil testing does. We measure our soil test. We actively, update those to measure our, gains or losses in that. So I think, just some sort of measurement device, whether it is a CI score or a stir factor, there's a lot of different ones to do, but I just think we need to encourage people to actually measure so that we can manage it.
And that's my whole emphasis is if I have a goal to achieve, if I know where I'm at today, then I know where I need to go. And I just want a measurable, and I'm throwing out carbon intensity because I think it's very simple. I mean, I went online and was able to do it in about 15 minutes and gave me a composite CI score. And I'm just looking at ways that we can. You got to know where you're starting from, so you know where your goal, where you want to go. And
with the buzzword of CI, I think Mitchell says it's 29 is what the Greek goes off of.
Yeah, every county is a little different.
His average farmer, that the testing they're doing now is a score of like 9.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a goal. If you want to set a goal for CI that we get below double digits or get to that 10 to 12 area.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad we could have that conversation because there's other measurables, but I want to make sure that we all are on the same page, that we want to help understand the carbon cycle. We want to understand the CI score. I think those are important parts of what this group needs to do out in the country because of the misunderstanding there is, and misunderstanding or no understanding at all. All right, dead air again. Let's move forward. Other goals, other things as we look at, as we're looking at the document, and we're getting close. We're down, or it's 11:30, so we want to keep time. Is there any other hot points of goals other than the things that we've talked about? And I'm just going to look at the notes I made. The one, number 3, we talk about promote soil health principles, cropland and pasture. I want to include livestock in that goal at some point. Somehow in not just cropland, but and pasture, but livestock. I think we can add that into there. I had the other goal somewhere is about understanding the carbon cycle, which we've talked about. And then we talked about having a presence in all 99 counties. We want to make sure we maybe revise that, to somehow 99 counties. We want everybody part of it, but we're going to have a regional structure. So maybe that we identify our regional structure, maybe more specific in those goals in some way. And maybe that's not the place for it, but we need somehow we need to talk about the structure that we talked about on this call, that we're going to look at more of a regional structure with goals of having people participating from all 99 counties, but not 99 counties having a president, vice president, much like what a lot of the commodity groups do today. I'm not sure it's a great practice to I think we can do better than that, than having county-based organizations. And the ones we do have, though, we need to that are already strong, we need to make sure how do we incorporate them into this regional structure. So there's just want to be clear so that when we're out talking with whether it's our financial partners, that we are clear about what the direction this group is taking. Clear as mud, Hillary?
Yes.
I like the idea of the regional heads on the board and, split up into 9 different sections of Iowa. That leaves you about 10 counties in each one. So I think if you had 3 subgroups under them that had their own their farmer get-togethers, so the regional guy would take it from the board and bring it to his region and talk to those 3 individuals that ran their groups. And under those subgroups, then they have the farmer-to-farmer discussions that are sitting at a farm table. That makes sense to me. Maybe 3 subgroups under each regional manager. And I think at that point, information and education gets disseminated down the line clearly.
Okay.
We have a soil health group in our area, and I've got guys from Clayton County, Almaquee County, Winneshiek, Fayette, Howard. They're coming in from distances of driving, and it's happening once a month. But it's just a couple of farmers getting together, having some beers, and we talk everything from cattle to soil health to carbon. For me, this is where I'm pushing the education, because it got to be too much of us talking about what was going on our farms to where I finally just delved into as much carbon as I could. And I brought it forth to a meeting and said, okay, enough drinking beer, we're going to learn something now. So I gave a talk on carbon, but I'm not college educated in that sector. I'm trying to pull together whatever information off the interweb that I can find. So there's where I'm with the board creates or gathers information, or we work with the NRCS more to gather information so that we have talking points at those meetings, so that when I sit down at a breakfast table and have pie with somebody, we can discuss something relevant. And it takes the load off me by having that put forth already. So yes, the 9 sections, maybe 3 subset sections underneath that regional manager. That's how we get going forward on talking to individuals.
All right.
I think Jason is a great model. He's a great mentor out there. And I think what he just described that he's doing, wouldn't we love to have that in every county? So I think we can just follow him, and he can add his learnings along the way, and of course other people will pop up as well. So I think we got a lot of good pieces already in place as we start to bring them together.
Okay, great. Any other input before we start talking about next steps? Hillary, you got anything else that we're missing that we haven't covered that we should go back and return real quickly before we're closing up?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, the last point is on this schedule, we have next steps and schedule for our next meeting.
I guess there were a few questions that I had.
Okay.
So as far as all the board positions go, I think the only thing that's left is the director, or whatever we want to call it, president. Is that?
Yeah.
Because I think you said you were the or vice president. So I don't know. Do we need additional? I think you're doing a great job. So are you just the?
Are you asking
that
me?
Title? Yes.
Well, so this whole thing is, I was looking at, because of the connection I had with some commodity groups, that I could do a great job, I hope, of financing once you're together. And I'm wondering, Hillary, that once we are specific with Agribusiness Association of Iowa, that would Ben be willing to take some sort of position on that group? Not that he would be president of it, because I don't think, but I think Ben, I would like to see him involved, because he's going to have some involvement being with the Association of Iowa. So I'm not naming him as our chairperson, but I think we haven't had that conversation yet, if he's willing to at least temporarily lead as, I don't know if you want to call it an interim CEO or someone to take charge through agribusiness. But you're looking at who's the next steps down the line, correct?
Just having the conversation
Sure.
now for the steering committee, because
yeah,
and maybe we don't really need to worry a whole lot about it if we're making forward momentum at this point.
Well, that'd be good. Just keep moving forward till we get more of our position or papers filed and we get legitimate, that we can move forward.
Okay. The second question I had, and Mitchell was on here for a little bit, but I don't know if he's on here now. Just clarifying that we did get a domain. I think he was going to buy the domain name for the website. So we need to confirm that with Mitchell. At one time, we talked about having an event this summer. With all the discussion here, I'm not sure we're ready.
Well, I think we talked about an event would be once we are up and running and we have a rollout event. That's what I was thinking, maybe. Is that what you're thinking? That kind of event where we roll out, media and talk about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure.
That kind of event.
And I remember in the discussion last summer that we wanted to make sure our website was fully functionable before we did that. So maybe we need to circle back with Mitchell and see what the status is there. Because I think he had some connections with content creators and people that that build websites, if I remember correctly.
I'll give Mitchell a call and see where he's at on that.
Thank you. And then we heard a little bit from Josh already about his group that he was starting in North Central Iowa. And I know JD just recently had a meeting in Southeast Iowa, trying to get a group together there. So there is some progress going forward, creating these regional groups.
That's great. All right. Anything
So
else?
those are all the questions.
So did we answer those? We have all board
I have
positions filled?
I have one thought on the
Yes.
rollout. Would it be possible, instead of having our own events, if that's not, feasible or whatever, by the time summer rolls around, could we piggyback on something like Mitchell Horace Field Day on June 2 or 5, whatever? I believe it's the first Monday in June. And then, Lauren Steinloggy usually has a pretty good crowd towards the end of July at his place. So just something to think about.
Good idea, Shannon. Yeah, if things are ready and in place by then, to have a rollout so that we're ready to go for at least the announcement, make it a media event so that people know that who we are and what we're doing. If we have all the things in place by then, I think it's a great idea. Other comments? All right, next steps. In my mind, our next steps are with Ben. It sounds like we'll know fairly quickly here whether they get a positive vote of taking this group on, and then we can I think we need to have another meeting, Hillary and Merlin or anybody else with Ben, so we can really nail down, because we haven't really nailed down financial responsibilities yet and those kind of things of who's, I think that one time they said that they would help us for a while until we got some financial commitments as far as filing our articles of incorporation and our bylaws and getting our 501(c) status done. But we need to nail that down, because my thought is that Agribusiness Association Iowa will be our mailing address. It'll be where there'll be somebody in the office that will be able to take calls and direct them to people. So that's they're going to be an associate management group. That group will help us manage this association. They do it for several other groups. There's a cost to it, so we need to nail down on what those costs will be.
Hillary, didn't you say that Ben had gotten the initial okay from his board?
He had talked to the executive board, I think is what he said in his email, but he needs to, they were on board. But he talks to the full committee on Thursday.
Okay. Well, then after Thursday, Tim, let's look at recontacting Ben and seeing what the next steps are on their end, and then that will help direct us as to our next step.
Yep, exactly. Perfect.
And then one last thing, just one last thought, is once we get to that point and we've got everything filed, then what you and I really started to focus on was fundraising. Then we can have enough potentially put together so that we can describe who we are, what we're about, and what kind of funds we're looking for, and how they will be used.
Yep, and I think putting together that business plan, we kind of got it from a long time ago, but I want to update our farmer-to-farmer business plan that really lays out a one-pager that we can hand to potential funders and say, this is what we're about, and so that we are definite on our structure, on what we're planning to do, our goals, so there's no miscommunication. We're about what we're going to do and how we're going to utilize dollars to move the needle on soil health in Iowa.
Yeah, and what the benefit is for them.
Yes. Yep. Any other comments on next steps? All right, schedule for next meeting. Input on that. We can sure be sharing with this group what we were finding out, especially important things that we got the go ahead with AI, maybe through emails, but next face-to-face meeting, Zoom meeting, it's going to probably, in my mind, it's going to be after planting season. Jason or Jack have any other input on that?
I'd say it's definitely after planting season, because it's on us.
Yep. It's going to be here. So we'll look at a June time frame, maybe June time frame, but is what I'm thinking about after what corn growers and what some of the other groups are. They have June board meetings. I think we maybe need to be thinking about June for our next meeting. Anything else on any other input on next meetings?
I would add that potentially, Tim, you and I and Hillary, kind of as a core team to push things along. I'm pretty open, as you know, as far as availability. I'm doing a lot of traveling out to Colorado here these days, but we can keep meeting so that when we meet in June with the entire group, we've got a bunch of these pieces hopefully nailed down.
Yep. Great. Any other final?
You okay with that, Hillary?
Yep. Sounds good.
Any other parting comments from anyone? If not, I appreciate the attention, and please contact Hillary, myself, Merlin, if there is other questions, we'd like to have input. We want to push this ahead. I know it seems like maybe time-wise we spent a lot of time on it, but it seems like it's taken longer than we expected. And now we need to kind of push the envelope and get things going. We got the pieces falling together. We're going to make it happen. Other than that, I have nothing else. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Go in peace.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And prosper. Bye, y'all.
Have a good day.
Bye.